Hello, good evening. For those of you who wear masks and choose not to, because the numbers in here work out that we're okay with the social distancing and so on. So, welcome and thank you for being here tonight. I think this is my third year being involved in this event, and this is by far the largest crowd, which is really good. So you're going to hear from a range of speakers tonight about VCE, VCAL, VET, work placements, and we hope it's really informative. It's pretty open to ask questions. It sounds funny saying put your hand up, but it's quite a large crowd. If you've got a question, put your hand up or just yell out and we'll see how we go. There'll also be time for questions at the end, either from the whole group or I'll definitely be hanging around afterwards to stay. For those who don't know me, my name's Dan Madden. That photo is really zoomed in. There's a much better one than about 3 slides long, which I should have used. And I'm the Year 12 Wellbeing Community Leader. Tonight I'll speak about, at the end of last year I asked the 2020 Year 12s, what information do you think is most important? This lot of Year 12s. I'll just put up 6 slides I think, but I've actually got 34 in a PowerPoint, which I'll email out tomorrow, so work out how I can get a document that size to you all. Just some expectations that I have of the girls for the year and some concerns I might have straight away. I'd like to start with knowledge of country. I wish to begin by acknowledging the Wurrung people of the Kulin Nations, traditional owners of the land on which we're gathered here today. We'll pay our respects to the local people for allowing us to have our gathering on their land and to their elders past, present and future. We'll also start with a prayer as well. So in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. So the prayer is titled A Life with Hope. A life with hope rests in the belief of seeing the sunrise. A life with hope moves through pain to growth. A life with hope searches for meaning in darkness. A life with hope champions nascent potential. A life with hope weathers storms and glories in them. A life with hope plants seeds, not trees. A life with hope embraces change, not shies from it. And a life with hope needs no evidence of God's work in our world, because faith is hope itself. Amen. Amen. I'll run through tonight the wellbeing features of Year 12. So we've got Richard Jones, cameraman over here. He's in charge of 12 right. Michael McCallum is 12 red. Ben Williams is moving to the position of 12 greens, wellbeing teacher. Kristen Flynn is 12 yellow. Caroline Houlihan takes 12 purple. And myself, I've got the 12. That's a much better photo, yeah? Alright, that's the one I should have used, or at least the size. Richard?
Yes.
Justine Fitzpatrick is the Year 12 Wellbeing Community Leader, Year 11, sorry. And for those of you who've been in Year 10, she was also Year 10 last year, so she'll be familiar with a lot of you. The Year 11 Wellbeing teachers are covering online for the VCAL class. Sarah Elmer for 11 green, Jen Talbot 11 red, and Cora is 11 yellow, Simone Hall 11 purple, and Hugh Saunders is 11 white. The purpose of having those people on the screen there tonight is, as the Wellbeing Community Leader, we are trying to implement a culture of communication going through the wellbeing teacher, as opposed to coming straight to me or Justine. Often, you know, I'm getting emails, or I'm in charge of 12 blue, so I'm getting emails about 11, 12 white kids who are going to be away for a day or need some help here or there. The purpose of the wellbeing teacher is to sort of be that go-between the students, myself. So when you need something, rather than coming straight to myself or Justine, please contact the wellbeing teachers, and they'll be very happy to help you. Now I've got 6 slides here, and I'm pretty sure, can we read that down the back? Yes? Okay, so I won't read it to you, you can read it yourself. yeah, with my teacher hat on, is work really hard, have faith in yourself, have faith in your teachers. And it comes up a few times, these comments, but not comparing to other people, all right? All these comments are relevant for VCE and VCAL students. Okay, this is not a VCE and a VCAL thing as well. Mental health, you read it, mental health came up all the time from the girls. And when I send out the bigger PowerPoint tomorrow or Thursday, you'll see how much the girls mention making sure that they look after themselves and ensuring that mental health is in the right spot. Again, not making comparisons. When I speak to the girls, I spoke to them yesterday, and it's a fact that only one student can be ducks, only one student can be the award winner for VCAL, and someone's going to finish 10th, 20th, 30th, 40th, 50th, all the way through. And personally, you know, I don't really care who the ducks is, or who's our lowest or our middle. We just push all the time just to do your best. Okay, if your best ends up being an A-class score of 65, then that's amazing. If your best is completing an unscored VCE because you found school quite difficult over the past 13 years, it's completely okay. At the same time, if your best is 90 plus, then please go and get it. That being organised is so important. There's a slide been talking about starting notes early. I'll get some Year 12s in next week or the week after, again to speak to the girls, and the girls will be emphasised upon starting notes now for the end of the year. Okay, I think if there's any Year 12 sitting here right now who did Year 12s a bit last year, they'd be aware of the benefit of starting early and getting really organised. There's one there. There was lots of good advice in the bigger PowerPoint about taking your notes early and efficiently and referring to them constantly. At the end of the year, you know, some girls will be studying for 5 exams, and some of those exams might be over 6 days if you get an unlucky combination. So it's important they start early. And this is one thing I always say to the girls: you've got to ask for help, because although we like to think we can read minds, as I'm sure parents think they can, if we don't know you need help, then we can't help you. The benefit I feel of being in charge of the Year 12s and working with the senior students is that I said it's the best day. You know, we've already got a couple of girls who have turned 18 already, and many turn 18 during the year. Year 11s as well, you know, with 17-year-olds. So it's good to have that relationship across the lines of teacher-student, but also, you know, treating them like adults. Expectations. Justin and I speak a bit about what we expect, and you know, I think that the two most important things I'd like to talk about is just doing your very best, no matter how that looks. I mentioned before, someone in this room might score a 95 this year. That's amazing. All right. There might be a VCAL student who works really hard, does well in their placement, and lines up an apprenticeship by July this year. You know, at the same time, some students might be doing an unscored VCE. That's completely okay as well, because we had last year a number of unscored VCE students who are now studying amazing courses in the next 12 months, 2-3 years. So the expectation is to try your best to be a good person. To be a good person, I believe is really important, because I have the motto, the thought process, that good people will be successful, no matter what their ATAR, VCE certificate, VCAL certificate says in 9 months' time. The ATAR and the VCAL certificate is really important for a 6-week window, and then no one really asks you ever again. People who ask me, I don't tell them the truth. I've only got a hat with a long number on it. But good people will prosper and survive and be successful. So I think to try, when you're talking to your daughters, to try your best and be a good person is all we can ask for, I think. Concerns, and I speak from a Year 12 perspective here, is that last year was a very disjointed year with some issues in the community during the second term, followed by COVID. And so, not just our girls, but many Year 11s in Geelong did not get the full Year 11 VCE, VCAL experience. And what I mean by that is I don't think the workload the girls were put through last year was enough to prepare them properly for Year 12. And I was speaking to the girls about this as well. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if you've got daughters at home now saying, we're getting slammed with work, you know, and they're saying things like, can the teachers slow down? The teachers can't slow down. Working to a curriculum, we'd like to get it done by the end of term 3, and teachers have to keep ploughing on, all right? So I think a concern that I have is that you're going to get a lot of tired, cranky girls in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks, maybe the whole 3 and a bit terms, okay? Because the workload's really big and we don't get a say in how much of it we have to deliver. We just deliver it as best we can. So keep going. I know unfortunately a lot of girls, not a lot, some haven't done their holiday homework, which already puts them behind 2 weeks of learning. You know, so that's a conversation not having to come the way home tonight nicely. Have you done your holiday homework? Because you know, I'm already hearing reports a lot haven't. You know, so that's my concern. You know, are the girls ready for the workload of what Year 12 is going to bring to them? You know, and also Year 11 as a Year 11 coordinator, that was always the thing. The girls get a really big shock going from Year 10 to Year 11. All right, and again, the Year 10 girls last year also probably didn't get the full experience of getting themselves ready for Year 11. I mean, the only positive you come from this is every school in Victoria. It's not just us, we're all in the same boat. So we don't know how results are going to walk across the board at the end of this year because of what happened last year when students were in Year 11. All right, so I hope that makes sense. I'm going to move on now to Sarah Park. I'm very happy to answer questions later, whatever. I'll be here at the very end, so thank you for being here and thank you for listening.
Thanks, Dan.
Sorry.
I'm the leader at Clonard, so I look after all year 11 and 12 VCAL students and also the pre-cal program in Year 10. We have some amazing students completing VCAL this year and also in the pre-cal program. So I'm going to talk about a few different areas that are going to help students with their VCAL program achieve success this year. So when I'm talking about the VCAL program, I'm not just referring to the school curriculum, I'm referring to their work placement and also their school-based apprenticeship studies or their VET studies that are often done off campus. So when I'm talking about success in VCAL, it's not just about the curriculum and the schoolwork, but the broader picture of a whole VCAL program that encompasses those 3 key areas. To be successful in VCAL, I know Dan touched on these things as well, a key is communication. VCAL students are communicating with a whole range of people within the school and then outside the school, whether it be community organisations, their VET providers and employers. So they're continually communicating with a whole range of people, and that can get overwhelming, it can get nerve-wracking to start with. But if students can make sure they're communicating with all those people and their teachers, their wellbeing teachers, their VCAL leader, all of those people, that's going to be a key to success. their organisation is going to be essential. So making sure that they know what their week looks like, they're using their diaries and they're organised. Because rather than coming to school 5 days a week, they're having to manage how am I getting to work placement, when am I finishing, how do I get to my casual job, how do I then do my homework and get to my vet and do my vet homework and communicate with those teachers and then the employers. So it's really important that there's a level of organisation to support all those key areas. And making the most of opportunities. VCAL has a whole range of opportunities, additional courses, working with external organisations, working with Geelong Mums, a whole range of things, and work placement. So embracing those opportunities. We have letters written to the Year 12 VCAL students from students sitting in their seat from last year. And many of those letters, they knew what they missed out on last year, and they said to the Year 12s, make the most of every opportunity. So when that opportunity of a work placement that might be outside your comfort zone, or talking to someone, asking, door knocking for those placements and things like that, present, or you've got something that you really want to embrace or you want to try but you haven't got the confidence yet, that you reach out to your teachers to embrace those opportunities, because they are wide and varied, but it's making the most of those is really, really important. So if anything, those 3 things, thinking about those for this year. When we're talking about VCAL, Dan was speaking about not comparing yourself to the person beside you or other people in your year level. The same with VCAL. We've got students working at foundation, intermediate and senior. The person beside you is doing a completely different program, a different vet, a different work placement, a different school-based curriculum. So it's really important you understand that you're working for yourself and what you're aiming to achieve and what your goals and capabilities are. So keeping that in mind and aiming for that and working towards those, depending on your ability to work autonomously and independently as well. The assessment in VCAL is going to be very different to traditional. I know the Year 12 students are prepared, Year 11s are just starting out. It's very different. It may not be about writing essays and those sorts of things, but it's about writing budget reports, it's about writing action plans, oral presentations, a whole range of things. And again, that's when organisation is going to be really, really important, and communication. So make sure you're organised and thinking about those. Your assessment, Year 11 students, is going to be wide and varied as well. Structured workplace learning will occur for the Year 12 students every Friday. They're about to start. Year 11s will start work placement in term 2, where they will head out each Friday, terms 2 and 3, and then do a 2-week block in term 4. So parents have been emailed at the end of last year with dates for deadlines of paperwork, and also dates paperwork's due and dates that work placements begin and start. So it's really important to start thinking about those, and again, thinking about where you might like to try, how you can be supported, and any parents out there as well, if you've got a business that you would like to, just a quick plug, to take on any of our VCE or VCAL students for work placement, we'd love to hear from you as well. If there's students can only do 20 days in a selected work placement, and sometimes we can make exceptions in line with the guidelines, the SWL guidelines as well. There's paperwork that will sit in with the work placement, and this is also for Year 10, 11 and 12 students doing VCAL. They'll need to complete a call sheet, meet that deadline, which looks like the first part, and we go through this in class as well. And then we also need to make sure we get the arrangement forms back as well, which is signed by parents, employers and students. So Katie Wilson, who'll speak shortly, will also talk about a little bit about these sorts of things. But this is making sure that we're on top of these paperwork to make sure placements go smoothly and those relationships with employers work really well. Attendance is a 90% attendance expectation set in VCAL, and it's really important that students are meeting that 90%, particularly due to the practical nature of the program. It's really difficult if we're setting a group task, if we're setting a practical task, if students are missing those events, they're things that we can't recreate. So their attendance is essential. Group work, when there's group work, it's essential to make sure they're maintaining that 90% attendance. Also, if they're not able to do that, they may receive an N if they can't demonstrate that learning outcome. So it's really important that communication is the key and making sure that attendance is being met. And that includes for work placement and VET, and Katie will also touch on that with VET. If you're absent from a set learning task, you will also need to medical certificate and then be able to reset that task depending on what that task may be. And I'll hand over to Katie Wilson, who's the VET leader. Thank you.
Hi everyone, like Sarah said, I'm Katie Wilson, I'm the VET leader, I'm SBAT leader, and I'm also in charge of the work placement within the school. To be successful in VET, you have to be really independent. So very similar to what everybody else has said, but it is an adult learning environment. I sat with the Year 11 girls today, and they were petrified. Okay, so they had to get on a bus, weren't quite sure where it was going to stop. They then had to find their own way to wherever they were going. I didn't get any phone calls, so I'm guessing everybody got there okay. But it is a totally different experience. For those students that have any learning difficulties, they will not provide the same level of support that they receive in Clonard. So I can support them as much as I possibly can, but I'm very limited in my knowledge across 90-something subjects. So they do have to be very, very independent, and it's very easy for a student to get behind. So I do ask if a student is struggling, especially in Year 12, that they come and see me pretty quickly, or that you can get in contact with me as well. The thing that you need to know is that because they are training organisations that are external, a lot of things are out of the school's control. So communication tends to go directly from the RTO, like the training organisation, to yourselves and to the students, and it skips myself. So the first time I hear about things is when someone contacts me, because there's been an issue. So you have to be really mindful about that. It often goes into your junk mail. It's not an ideal situation. I have limited information, but I do ask if there are any issues, you come directly to myself, and then I will contact the provider on your behalf, and then I'll get back to you as quickly as I can. So I work every single day, apart from a day 10, which is every other Friday. So yeah, we do have that, and the buses as well are not organised by the college. It's by this wonderful lady called Frida Wright at the girls' school is Matthew Flinders, thank you. It's been a long day. Matthew Flinders, she arranges for 1,000 VET students to get transported around Geelong, so please be very patient, 11 and 12 parents and students, that you will get sent an operee with multiple changes to the bus timetable. It's already changed 3 times today. Okay? Every time a student drops out of a course, the bus timetable changes. So that's something else to be mindful of. Speaking of dropping out, if one of the girls realises in the next week or so that that course is not right for them, or they're going to struggle in Year 12 and they're not going to complete their VET, they need to let me know straight away so that we can withdraw them from the course. We have until the end of January, but we have admin to do, February, admin to do on top to withdraw that student so you guys don't get charged, otherwise you'll get charged the full fees for the year, and we don't want that on anybody. Okay, that's why it's really important that that student knows that that course is right for them at the start of the year. So for Year 12 you normally know, or I've already been notified, and the withdrawal rate this year has been a lot lower, and we have done a lot of work last year on that to prevent that from happening. The reports are sent to me, and then we have to email them out, and depending on the training organisation, they roughly come around every once a term, but not in term 4 for some reason. Okay, so we're trying to find a way to get those to you as efficiently as possible. I do get emails of concern come through, and I will contact you straight away and contact the student to see what the issue is. It's often an IT issue, and something has been uploaded, but for some reason, we all love technology after last year. There has been a technological issue, but yeah, I will notify students straight away. And that's the same for the feedback as well. Depending on the VET course, or any of the VET courses, they can be scored and go towards like a normal subject towards ATAR, or they may be non-scored, or they may contribute to a 5th or 6th subject. If you have a query on that, can't answer them off the top of my head because I don't know all of them off the top of my head. But please shoot me an email and I can clarify all of that straight away. The SBATs tend to be, they just contribute towards the 5th or 6th subjects, so they're just like that 10%. Allied health and some courses are partial completions, so what that means is, if it is studied in year 11, it can either be done as a school-based apprenticeship in year 12, and then you'll get the full certificate, or you just carry on and then you have to do a unit, or you're missing one unit, but you still get a full ATAR for it. I know that early childhood education and care is the same, beauty services is the same. I couldn't tell you any more off the top of my head, but there are a few different subjects where that occurs. Now with attendance, I get an attendance report. So we take the students' attendance at the bus interchange every Monday and Wednesday lunchtime. So Gab from the office stands out there, she takes a roll, so it's like a normal class attendance. If a student's going to be absent, I need to be notified, and then I will notify the provider for you, so it makes it a lot easier. If students miss 2 classes, back-to-back weeks, they can actually lose out their place on the course. Okay? And that's to do with, again, the external providers and not ourselves. So the attendance has to be really, really high, and if we do notice that there is a trend in students missing classes, it will be followed up, because they just get behind really, really easily. If a student is going to miss a session, it's important that a medical certificate is provided as well to myself. Now, Sarah spoke about work placement. Like I said, I'm in charge of the work placements as well. VCE and VCAL students can both do work placements with their courses depending on which ones they study. So for VCAL students, it's great, they go out every Friday and they can do their hours that are required as part of their course on those Fridays. For VCE students, it is an expectation, and it's necessary for the course, that they do blocks in the school holidays. So they normally occur at the end of term 2 and sometimes at the end of term 3 as well. But ideally for year 12, we'll do them at the end of term 2. Now normally those placements occur in year 11, but because of COVID, especially allied health and early childhood, we couldn't get the students in the placements. It was really, really frustrating for the girls. They were so understanding, it was brilliant, but we have got to try and get those hours in this year. Okay, and the beauty industry was another one that was massively hit. So, students need to go and find somewhere, or have a think about it, come and let me know where they're thinking of doing, and we can lock them in now, and then get that paperwork processed and sent off to employers and parents and students, so that it's all signed and ready to go, and fingers crossed we don't go into a lockdown again, so that those girls can go on their placements. And I think that is it. If you have any questions, I will be back at the end. Thank you.
I'm Christy, I'm the VCE leader, so some of the things you've heard already in terms of work, VET and VCAL are very similar in VCE, but I'll start with the idea of how to be successful for VCE. And one of the things that I try and communicate through with the girls is that we have at least 50 hours of class time per unit of VCE subjects. So VCE units are generally, you've got unit 1 and 2, generally at year 10 and year 11, 3, 4 is our year 12. In addition to that, the expectation is about 50 hours of work outside of class. Okay, so rather than putting a thing in of going in homework is certain number of hours each night, things like that, it's thinking about that across a semester for each subject is about 50 hours of work. So I guess my message is to be successful in VCE does require you to work really hard. Okay? It's not an easy pathway, none of them are easy pathways. That's the way to do it. Other things that are really important to think about being successful at VCE level is that difference between homework and study. That your daughters will never have nothing that they can be doing. Okay, that the teacher might not that day say do A, B and C for homework, but there's that study. And our experience shows us that the girls that are successful in their VCE pathway are ones that take that on board, and take it on board from day one. Okay, so particularly students in year 11, you need to start working hard from yesterday. Okay, don't wait until you're in that year 12, you need to start doing that. We really notice that work ethic. And one of the statistics we've been looking at is looking at the difference between a predicted score and an achieved score. And when I unpack that, when I'm looking at my classes particularly, I can see those students that are achieving well above their predicted score are the ones that start working from day dot, that are doing that 50 hours, that are doing practice exams. For Unit 3-4 students, there will be a practice exam period in the Term 3 holidays, so students who are doing a VET, do keep that in mind in terms of your work placement. If you're doing Unit 3-4 subjects, we do expect you to be available in that second week of the Term 3 holidays. Other things that are important to know for doing VCE is some of the lingo, the idea about an S or an N, which you've sort of heard talked about a little bit today. And they're standing for unsatisfactory or non-satisfactory. So in every VCE unit, there are outcomes that need to be achieved. So to get your VCE, you need to have that minimum of 16 units. 16 units that you've achieved the outcomes in each of those. Most of our students will have significantly more units than that, that's sort of our minimum. And we sort of look at that difference between meeting those outcomes, getting those S's, getting those 16 units, getting your VCE, versus a performance level. And that's the scores on their SACs in Unit 3-4 subjects. The scores that then add up to a study score for each unit, that then go towards the ATAR. So what that means is there's sort of multiple ways of achieving that. So getting your satisfactory in each outcome is more than just sitting a test and doing that. It's about the classwork, it's about the class discussion, it's about the activities they're involved in, the practical things, all of that as well. Which is why, similar to what the other people have spoken to you tonight about, is why attendance is so important. We need to be able to authenticate the work, we need to be able to see that. So simply just doing the test and after that isn't enough to being successful at VCE. So the majority of our students will do a scored VCE, will go ahead and do their exams and get an ATAR and then choose their pathway, but there is another option. There is an option for students to do a non-scored. So there are some students that should think about that. Some students already know their pathway. They might be going off to an arts college, they might be going into the Defence Force or into a workplace or have other options that they don't actually need an ATAR. So that's an option where perhaps to take that pressure off and all that, they may decide to not do exams and do a non-scored program. We sometimes have students that perhaps that exam stress and anxiety is something that's too much for them to do, that they choose that pathway. Or some students later on in the year will have offers already into tertiary placements, so don't need to have that. So there are things to think about. That's not a decision the students need to make today. It's something we need around May, and I'll certainly communicate those sort of final dates. And we don't encourage students to do that lightly, but there's conversations that if students are thinking that's their option, to come and see me to get a form. They also meet with Gav, our careers practitioner, who will speak to you tonight as well, to make sure that they're making that right decision in terms of that pathway. The other thing for students to keep in mind if they're choosing to do a non-scored pathway is that the expectations are still quite similar to students doing a pathway. As I said, to get your VCE, you have to meet outcomes. You have to get those satisfactories. So students not sitting exams also have to do that. It's not, we don't look at it as being an easy pathway that they just don't have to do anything. They're still doing all the work, they're doing the assessment, they're sitting the SACs, all those sort of things. They're just not getting a performance indicator. They're getting that S rather than a score. Attendance is the same for VCE, as Pete's mentioned to you already. We expect that 90% level of attendance. It's the student's responsibility to catch up if they're absent. The teachers are using things like Teams and OneNote and things like that, giving students calendars of work. There is that expectation if you're away to do that. But more importantly than that, it's incredibly important, if the student is absent on the day of an assessment or a SAC, they must have that medical certificate. Students doing a Unit 3-4 subject, if they're absent and there's a SAC, if there is no medical certificate, they will get 0 for that SAC. Okay, and it's the SAC scores that add up to the study score, which goes to the ATAR. So really, really important. Hopefully we're not away. If we're away, that absolutely needs to happen. Okay. Other things that are important to think about in Year 12 is authentication. So one of the reasons absence is so critical is that we need to be able to see the students do the work in front of us. We need to authenticate it's their work. So there'll be things like if something happens and work has to be done out of class, there might be some forms and things students might have to fill in, and a lot of them will be familiar with that from having done assessments in remote learning last year. The other thing to bring up this point is that we talk to the students about things to do with plagiarism and sharing work and things like that. So in the senior handbook, there is some information about that, and we do have a process of doing that, and we just really want to communicate that idea of the importance of making sure students are completing their own work and are aware of what plagiarism is and what the consequences of that might be. We have a SAS procedure, which you'll probably be familiar with, where students are absent when there's work or they complete work that's not at the satisfactory level. So you'd expect the SAS is run on Wednesday and Thursday nights, and we'd expect that if students are absent the day of the SAS, that is the time they do it. So we just make that really clear. It's Wednesday, Thursday nights. There's a bit of negotiation as to which night that is, but that is the only time that students are allowed to make up work they have missed, or if they have not yet got that satisfactory. Okay, so there's not a chance to do it at lunchtime or in another class. That's the time we use to do that. Feedback and reporting, so you should expect to see regular feedback on how your daughters are going. Using Simon, feedback to students often might go through things like Teams, so you can often ask your daughters, show me what the teachers popped on Teams for you. And Joe Ryan's the person to contact if by the end of term you're not seeing that feedback. So you should have at least 2 pieces of feedback from each teacher by the end of term. The other thing that I thought was important to mention tonight is what we call our special exam arrangements. I often get people ask me questions like, can I get special consideration because of this, special consideration for that? At VCE there is not a thing called special consideration. Okay? What we have in place is for Unit 3-4 subjects, special exam arrangements for students that fit a number of categories, and I will send that information out. So we're talking about perhaps people that might have mental health conditions, so maybe some students with high anxiety that might benefit from being able to have some rest breaks during exams or have a separate room. Could be someone might have chronic fatigue in these rest breaks. We've had students that might have a physical disability where difficulty writing, they might need a scribe. Students with learning disorders, things like that. So the reason I bring it up now is that paperwork for any students doing Unit 3-4 subject this year has to be in by the end of this term. And it has to be information from an external person, so a psychologist or a paediatrician or a doctor or an OT or whoever's the relevant person. So that's really important. If students think they fit into any of those categories, there's a list of what sort of possible arrangements for exams we can have, and we need to get onto that as soon as possible, because then we can put them in place for all the SACs going through the year as well. If the student is in year 10 or 11 and you think you fit into that, I'd also like to be notified about that, because what we can do is looking at the grid, if it says anxiety, potential rest conditions or rest breaks in separate room, that we can look at putting those places in internally if we've got that evidence to support it, to have that basis basically for when we apply for it for a Unit 3-4 subject. So we can say, yep, this is the person, this is what we've done to adjust for them to begin with, this is what they need to perform at their best in the exams at the end of the year. Okay, I think that's about what I want to mention now, but I'll take questions at the end. Thank you.
Do you want me to go?
Yeah, that's it.
I know, we stuffed it up.
Sasha, just go.
I can tell we're in a room full of Catholics. Hello down the back. Hi, my name's Deb Mann and I'm the Careers Advisor here at Clonard College. I'm sure I've met all of your young people once or twice before in their journeys, and so it's great to see them in their final years here at Clonard and planning what's next after they hit this little Year 12 hurdle along the way. There's a couple of things that I want to speak to you about this evening, and by no means, this is just going to scratch the surface. By no means are you going to get the full lot of information to take away with you, and there's no more. There's always more. There's always another conversation to be had. There's always another piece of information to gather along the way. So some things that I'm going to talk to you about really quickly this evening is some of the post-secondary school options to keep your mind open to. There's a whole list of them up there up on the board. So gap applications, police, defence, early offers, open days, VTAC, further education, CEAS, traineeships, apprenticeships and employment. Your young person will fit into 1, 2, 3 of those categories at any one given time. So, if we're thinking about gap years, please start thinking about that now for Year 12 students. For Year 11 students, it doesn't hurt to find out what's out there too. Start to plan. I know applications. I know overseas travel is in a pipe dream, but anything is possible. So if a gap year includes that, then there's lots of different things that people can do in gap years. They can go overseas and study, they can go overseas and work, they can volunteer, they can, you can do short stints of 2 weeks, or you can do up to 2 years with some opportunities of that ilk, if that's your thing. Police, I know that police recruit every 6 months. And so if your young person is thinking they're going to be one of the very few people at the age of 18 to be recruited into the police, you go for it. Find out what it's all about, start that conversation with police recruitment. Same with Defence Force. We've got 2 students this year, year 12s last year, that are doing Defence Force. One's doing a gap year and one has enlisted. So they started that process at the beginning of the year to know exactly what things they had to put in place to make sure that that could happen for them. We have early offer schemes, so there's a number of universities that offer early offers, and that means that you apply to the university given your background in volunteerism, your background in leadership, your background in communication, your background in the things and community work that you have done. Universities want people that have got more than just academic skills. They want people. So they put out early offer schemes, so keep your ears to the ground when those come into place, and I'll tell you how I communicate that information later. Open days, if we can get on campuses this year. Last year we did, everything was online and it was virtual open days, and a lot of you would have gone to them. But hopefully this year you'll be able to get on campus and really feel what it's like to be a student at a different campus other than Clonard. VCAL, Victorian Tertiary Admission Centre. There's one admission centre in every state. We just happen to be the Victorian one. The Queensland is called QTAC, the South Australian is called SATAC, the New South Wales is called UAC for University Admission Centre, the Western Australian one is called TISC, Tertiary Institute Services Centre. There's one in every state except Tasmania, it's called UTAS. They only have one university, so that's who you apply to. So that opens in August, and students are encouraged to then have that discussion. Well, what's that application going to look like? Where do I want to be? What's my dream? What's my plan? What's plan A, B, C, and D, F and G? CEASE and scholarships. CEASE, Special Entry Access Scheme. Christy touched on making sure that everybody in the school understands the needs of every individual student and how we can best deal with the needs of every student. CEASE allows every student who is applying to a university to be able to express that need, whether it's financial, whether it's medical, or whether it's been a difficult circumstance. That's what CEASE is for. Further educations like the Gordon, like VFA, like Oxygen College, like SEA, like JMC, all these other colleges, direct applications occur around the same time. Traineeships and apprenticeships. We know that employers are out there and they're wanting to get their young people on board. If there's a particular apprenticeship or traineeship that somebody wants to get into, we try and make that happen. We ring, we email, we search. We do the best we possibly can to make that happen for that young person. And employment, obviously. A lot of young people who want to take the gap year say, I work at a cafe down in the cafe industry, I've spoken to the employer, they want to put me on full time for 12 months, and that's exactly what I want to do. Great. They've had the communication, they've had the conversation, they've made the decision, and we have to be happy with that. Yeah, we as parents need to be happy with that. Okay. Radio. So pathways, we've been told as young people, I'm sure, always to follow the dream, follow your own dream, not somebody else's. You're past the year 7s, year 8s, year 9s that are saying, oh, my friend is doing that elective, so I want to do that elective. You're past that. You now are making decisions based on what your pathway would look like and how individualised you want that pathway to look like for you. Keeping it real. I just was speaking to the year 10s about Miss Quinn and Mr Madden and myself were in here on the 30th of December last year. Results came out for our year 12s. They finally, we got it in the same year that they did their exams, which is fantastic. But we made some pretty hard phone calls. We made some phone calls to some young people that may not have been ready to hear that we need to talk about this. They had aimed for their dream, but forgot about their reality. They had put their dream courses down, thinking they were going to university, but hadn't really given themselves a reality check of What if I don't make that? What's plan B, what's plan C? 26 letters in the alphabet. So we're having conversations, and they were great conversations. All credit to those young people that we called and who answered our call. They were great conversations. I didn't know I could do that. I didn't know that that was possible. That's great. Is that going to get me where I want to be? And all we could keep saying is yes, yes, yes. So there's always a plan, and every year when Dad and I look at the list and we think, yep, we say it, they hear it, but sometimes it's not acted upon. So really have that conversation with your young person. You have a dream. One of our students wanted to study agriculture at the University of Melbourne. She wants to work in the farming industry. Great dream. Difficult course to get into. So she's put down a whole lot of other courses, and I said, can you just put in down the bottom the Diploma of General Studies at Dookie? Just put it in for me. She goes, oh yeah, what a great idea. It's 8th preference, she put that in. And in my peace of mind, her peace of mind, if I don't get the University of Melbourne offer in agriculture, which was the first preference, I know I'm going to get an offer at some point in time, which will give me the stepping stone to where I want to get to. Good news is she got her first preference, which is great. But she was peace of mind. She knew that she had her plans in place. Communications is vital. Since year 10, I've been emailing young people newsletters. Last year, we made the best use of Teams in communicating information to students, and I emailed. And I know young people aren't very good with their emails. They don't read them all the time. So therefore, that's why I hit them in 2 ways. And in Year 12 assemblies, I'm in that interaction at least 1 minute out of the 25, giving them a short, sharp piece of information, and Mr. Madden will say, act on it. And it's a great way to communicate any information or any ideas. So check your emails. The young person's talking to you, ask them, have you checked your emails today? And they might say yes or no, or I'm going to do it. It's on my to-do list. Make sure it gets done. That'd be great. Really, really good. And so there's my email address. You are all welcome to email me at any time. Young people are happy to drop in and see me. I work Monday, Tuesday, Thursdays in the college. Research, plan, and realise your dream. Okay, you will have also seen this. I would have spoken about this at other information nights on our college review website. It's a plethora of information and answers a million questions that you may have about what's available, what's out there, what does it mean by gap year, whose project's abroad, what's Let's Live, how can I be a tutor, what if I want to go and teach English to a country where English is their second language, how do I do that? Lots and lots of information on that website. It's on Pam, it's on Simon, www.collegecareers.com. Don't know it, email it, and I'll send you the link. It's got some great information. And the stuff we're talking about tonight, the VCE, the VET, the VCAL, all links up there to the VCAA website to go through exactly in VCAA jargon what has been already told to you. And it's so great to see your faces because you're interested, you're engaged, you're people here that feel it's important to hear this message and hear this information to support your young person on their journey. I think that's me. Yes, Sasha. Thank you. I'll be here after to take any questions that you may have. Otherwise, simply email and we'll have to answer.
Hello everybody, so my name's Sasha, I'm one of the school counsellors here and we're going to talk about some coping skills for stress and anxiety for your daughter and for yourself as well. So last year, with 10, 11 and 12, there were 3 known trends that I came across and the student services team down there came across. These are the 3. If I stay in my room long enough, everyone will think I'm doing lots of study. I'm just going to close the door and no one's going to come in and I'm going to be doing lots of study. That's it. If I cram it all in and finish it, I won't have to do any more. I am done and I'm going to blitz the exam. My parents are annoying and they time and time again. I think everybody can relate. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know. They are the three known trends, and I'm going to come back to them. These are 8 evidence-based tips to reduce anxiety and stress in students. You don't have to remember them because I have a wonderful little handout for you. It's even laminated, I know. And you can put this on your laptop, you can have it in your diary, you can sit on your desk. Everybody can have one. They're evidence-based, they work. In fact, Ms. Quinn was telling me today that she uses number 1 and it works. She uses it all the time. Study in 20-minute intervals for a 5-minute break. It's a proven fact. Our brain likes information in small pieces. It loves it. It absorbs it. It's going to work. Say it out loud. Think it out loud. Tell someone about what you know. The more you tell somebody, the more you're going to know about it. That's why teachers know so much, because they tell you all the time about the stuff that they know. It works. Breaks are good, distractions are bad. Rewarding breaks, not breaks that are school related. Don't have a break and then do something about school. Have a break that's not school related. Feed your brain. Choose meal. Get everyone involved. Get the family involved. If you feel like a particular meal that night, tell mum and dad about it. You know what? I really want spag bowl tonight because that's what my body's telling me I need. Get everybody involved. Don't be silent about it. You tell them. Within reason, of course. Water your brain. Buy a study bottle. Make it special. Make your study time special. Get the bottle and say, that's just my water bottle for my study time. Fill it with a bit of lime. Fill it with a bit of lemon, a bit of berries. That's your bottle for when you do your study. So it's special time. Because study is special and it needs to be. Exercise. You know you need to get up and move. It's good for you. And stress is okay. You need a little bit of stress to get yourself excited, to get yourself motivated to do that study that you know is for your benefit. Okay? And sleep is your friend. It's important. We know it's important. We know we feel great when we have it. If you reach little goals in your study, you're going to feel good about yourself. And then you're going to sleep because you've achieved something. And I'll talk about that in the next slide. Fun ideas. This is the good slide. Post-it notes. Put them everywhere. Put them around the house. Put them in front of the bathroom door. Put them on the kitchen door, the kitchen fridge. Get mum and dad involved. Get your siblings involved. Put them everywhere. If something is really bothering you about your study and you can't move on from a particular equation or you can't move on from a question, put it on a post-it note and put it all over the house until you know that when you get to that post-it note, you can answer that question. And then you take the post-it note off and you don't need to put that post-it note on again. Post-it notes are your friend. Get mum and dad involved. Put post-it notes on their door. Ask them a question. Get them to answer it. See how that works out. All right? Reward yourself. A soft-serve cone. Someone just told me they're 50 cents now. The best 50 cents you'll ever spend. Little rewards. A $3 face mask from Kmart. That's a reward. Brilliant. Little things that you deserve when you do your study. They only need to be small, but they mean so much. Goals. Put a line under your notes. Don't sit there and write pages and pages of information and keep reading it and reading it and reading it. Put a line under it. Put a line under that page. And when you get to the line, go and get a little reward. Go and have a break. Stop at the line. Don't keep going. Stop, then come back to it. You don't need to keep going and going. You don't need to read the whole novel. You need to stop. You need to absorb. Put a line under it. Use colour pens for notes. Different colours for different subjects. So you recognise that those pens are for that subject. Teach your parents about your subjects. Ask them a question. Tell them what you've learned. Ask them, answer a few things that you might have learnt that day. this sort of, evening event every Tuesday night. All right, I'm going to ask you some few things that I've learned today. See how we go. The more you tell people about what you've learned, the more it's going to sink in. And it's proven. So the 9 trends. If I stay in my room long enough, everyone will think I'm just doing lots of stuff. What's going to happen? You're going to feel isolated. You're going to feel a bit lonely. We need to communicate. It's in our human nature. We need each other. No one can do this on their own. And it's about finding balance with each other. Get everyone involved. Let everybody know about it. Tell somebody how you're feeling. Tell somebody you want that spag goal. Put the post-it notes out there. Get everybody involved. If I jam it all in and finish it, I won't have to do it anymore. If your brain won't allow you to do that, it doesn't matter how much you try. It's not going to allow you to do it. Small pieces. You need breaks. Rushing is not learning, it's just rushing. My parents don't know, they don't understand. That's a perception, that's an assumption. You'd be surprised, especially when you start putting those post-it notes around and they start learning stuff. Imagine how much they're going to know then. If you communicate, they won't ask. If you start talking to them, they're not going to ask you questions back. You start feeding them information about how you're feeling and what you're doing, okay? If you consider the 8 tips, your relationship will be enjoyable and your studies will be, and so will the family. And remember, I've got those little cards, so you can take the little 8 tips away. And all I ask is you try one, and if the one works, move on to the next one. If that works, move on to the next one. And see how you go. We're always here for your daughter down at Student Services, and so is the rest of the school. We can talk to you for 5 minutes, 30 minutes, for an hour. We will do whatever it takes. So if you've got any questions, if you don't want to ask me here, that's okay. If you want to ask one-on-one, because every student is different, and that's okay. So, thanks very much.
Thank you. We've gone to close to an hour now, which is probably all the time we need. All staff will be for questions if you want to hang around and come up and see us. Does anybody have a question that we might think might affect the whole room that we can answer all at once, or would rather just come and speak up individually? Any questions?
Actually,
Yes.
holidays.
Yes?
Going away, with your VCE, is that encouraged or not encouraged? Or?
It is strongly discouraged, okay? And the moment to the end of the year. Okay? Let us remember too, we've got practice exams in week 2 of the term 3 holidays. And the major reason why, if you go away, let's say you're in my maths class, and you go away this week, and I do a SAC, you get a 0 for it. Alright, they aren't our rules, they are their rules. It's not the best come back to the kids. They're the rules for the VCAA. Okay, so please, no holidays.
During term.
During term time.
Unless
During term time.
unless you're,
No, please no
Great
holidays,
question.
because you run the risk of missing a SAC.
Yes.
Or your attendance being under 90%.
Just to add to that, if they're a VCE vet student who has to do a block in the school holidays as well, we can work our way around it a little bit, but it's very strict on when that can be as well. And again, that's external national guidelines, so it's really, really difficult. It's a difficult time to navigate because the girls do need the break as well in the holidays.
Yeah, good question, thank you. Yes?
Great question. So universities in Victoria, and in fact probably around Australia, open in August, the first week in August. So prior to that, the universities have open days. Universities and colleges of further education have open days so that you're able to go and peruse the product and know what you're investing your money in, and have a better understanding to be able to compare courses with courses. So a course at Deakin compared to a course at ACU, compared to a course at the University of Melbourne, for example. It's great to go to places you've never been to learn more about yourself and your place in the world. Some people like big and beautiful, other people like small and intimate. It's really, really personal. So that application opens the first week in August, and timely applications closed the last week in September. Of course, you can always put in a late application, but some courses are exempt from that late application if a folio or an interview or any other form or criteria is required for that particular course. They usually shut on that time, and it costs more money after that date also. This year it was a $40 fee for a VTAC application. 8 preferences go in there, but at any time you can go in and reshuffle. If on the 10th of August you put in 1 preference, pay for it, it's done and dusted, and then on the 20th of November you can go and put in another 7 because you already have it open. We talk all about that during the year when that application process. And we will have VTAC information night. Fingers crossed we can have it in person. If not, it was virtual last year, where all of those further education, higher education application process questions can be answered. But yeah, great question. So start your thinking now.
Thank you. Yes.
Sasha said the students communicate with their parents. What is it they don't want it? You know, like, I've asked my granddaughter a few times about how's school going and all that. She says, yeah, good.
Yeah. You know, the funny thing is that the moment you ask a child about school, they're going to shut down. My tip is if you want to open up the communication lines with any child, is don't ask them about something they don't want to talk about, and that's school. Start talking about something that they do want to talk about. And once you start opening up those communication lines about something that they want to talk about, then slowly introduce the topic of school. You know, talk about things that they're enjoyable, you know. What movies you watching, you know. I noticed that you've got new nail polish on, you know. What are you into? What's this music? Have you seen this new song? When they start to think that you can relate to them on their level, the next time you ask them a question about how's school going, you might find that they open up a little more. It's introducing and understanding how to communicate with a young person on a different sort of topic other than school. Because the moment you ask them about school, you're absolutely right, they do shut down. So start talking about other sort of topics and then introduce the school topic if that will be helpful. Yeah. Talk about some other things. Photos are always good too when they're younger. Bring out a photo when they were small. You'd be surprised how quick that opens up the dialogue. Yeah. Not about school though.
Thank you. Any more questions? Okay, so we'll wrap it up. I'd like to thank everybody for being here tonight and speaking. You've been crossing across to, if you see people going across the hall, they're going to another presentation happening at the same time. So thank you to all our speakers here tonight. Thank you to our parents and our students and our families. I counted 131 people here tonight, which is really good numbers. Okay. Last year, as a school, and as a community, and as families, you know, we survived COVID. You know, we lived through a pandemic. So there is challenges that we're going to have this year. Hopefully not like last year, okay? But I think together, as a group, as a team, there's nothing we can't achieve together. So thank you for being here tonight. If you'd like to speak to any of the teachers, we'll all be up front or lurking around to have a chat with you. So thank you very much.